minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Vehicle's pitching downrange.
Booster check pressure is nominal.
All right, we're more than 30 seconds into flight. Telemetry showing 33 out of 33 engines as it's pitching downrange.
Booster, chip, avionics, power, and telemetry nominal.
Hearing good call outs on the ship and booster avionics. You just heard the rumble hitting us about 6 miles away. Watching Starship arc into just endless blue skies right now.
Vehicle supersonic.
More than a minute into flight, the vehicle's supersonic.
Max Q.
So we just passed through max Q. That's the greatest stress the vehicle's going to experience on the way uphill. Reminder that all of our teams down here on the ground are now looking at systems on the tower. They just did a manual check through. That's going to inform that manual flight director's decision. Next moment coming up, though, is going to be hot staging. Don't take your eyes off it. It's one heck of a light show.
What a gorgeous ascent.
6 ship engines getting ready to ignite. That's going to happen while we're still attached.
We can still see the ship's engines from the ground.
Got a little under 30 seconds away from that. We are hearing good call outs on the tower preparedness from the manual checks. Reminder though, we've still got automated checkouts on the booster and the ship itself. But as of right now, our manual checks and our manual commanding is looking go for a catch.
Booster engine cut off.
That is incredible news. We just heard the call out for booster
right,
engine
Miko.
cut off.
Engine startup.
Most engines cut off, down to those
Stage
middle
separation.
3.
Cruise background startup.
All right, hot stage
Raptor, chamber
confirmed.
pressure
We've
is
got a
nominal.
booster hopefully on its way back to us, and a ship now making its ascent burn into space. How's it going in Hawthorne, Jesse?
It's great over here. You can hear the crowd screaming for every milestone. The booster is now making its way back down to Earth. Looks like we have 12 of those 13 engines ignited. We're using the engines that actually gimbal.
We are go for booster return.
An excellent call out there. We are go for booster
Ship,
return.
avionics, power, and telemetry nominal.
There's a lot of criteria that needed to line up to ensure that we could have a
Cruise
safe
background shutdown.
booster catch, and it sounds like we got the go for that. And there you can see on your screen, we had we just jettisoned the hot stage, and there's a great, excellent view there of the hot stage floating away from the super heavy booster. Now we've shut down the engines for that boost back burn. That confirms boost back burn is now complete. That was the first of 2 burns required for the vehicle to make its way back down to Earth. And next coming up will be the landing burn. That's going to be 13 of those center engines igniting again. And that will then go down from 13 down to 3 engines just right before we touch down for that booster catch. Now, reminder, our stage 1 objectives are to have a controlled ascent, stage separation, as well as a controlled boost back burn and hot stage as well. So we're looking good for that so far. Some great views there from the ship of Earth. That looks incredible. Now Starship's ship is still firing its engines right now.
Starship trajectory nominal.
And great call-outs. Starship trajectory is nominal. You can follow along the telemetry, the altitude in the bottom left-hand corner for the Super Heavy booster, as well as the bottom right-hand corner for the ship. And these views are just amazing. Again, the booster is currently making its way back to the tower today. So we're looking forward to a booster catch with the chopsticks. And in the meantime, you can see those grid fins there, helping to control the vehicle and guide it back to its landing site.
Booster FTS is saved.
Now with that, we're gonna hand it back. How's it going over there, Dan and Kate? How are you doing, Kate? Seeing that in person?
You know, Dan had to take that entire segment because I couldn't talk. That was incredible.
There it is.
We can see the booster coming back in now through the plume. At least it looks that way to us. It's incredible that it basically returns. It looks like a speeding, just like
Ship
this
rupture chamber pressure is
silver
nominal.
flare coming back to the. Once again, we are standing by for attempting to catch the booster at the tower. This would be the second tower catch.
Booster landing
Landing
burn
burn. Seeing 13 engines.
Booster now hovering as it aligns with the tower for catch.
Booster coming in. Get
Down
ready
to-
for that boom, Kate.
Down to 3 engines.
Booster landing burn shutdown.
Mega Boy has caught the booster.
Welcome in, folks. Okay, yeah, mic's on. Hey, Joe. Welcome in. Oh, we're going to have to fix that. Hold on. Need to mute those two. Welcome in. Excuse me, folks. I don't feel good. I don't look good right now. That's why I don't have my camera on. 23 minutes. T-minus 23:54 until liftoff. They're right in the middle of prop loading right now. SpaceX just went live during my intro. Excuse me. All right, we'll go over to them, unmute them, listen and see what
During
they're saying.
subsonic flight. And then for full reusability, the ship has to survive re-entry not just once, but multiple times. It does that by using that heat shield, which is composed of those thousands of hexagonal ceramic tiles, which can insulate the vehicle during re-entry, temperatures spiking up to about 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit in some spots. And a rapid
Phoenix,
heat shield has never been flown
resub
on
for
any
16
vehicle
months.
in
Let's
history.
go.
Continuously
Welcome in, buddy.
improving the one we have Starship.
Hey,
is still a
J-Cat.
key focus of our flight test campaign.
And of course, in between our first and second stages is our hot stage. Hot staging is when the second stage engines ignite while still attached to the first stage. There you can actually see a video of our previous hot staging maneuver.
I'll try to narrate through some of this. I'm having a hard time talking right
and
now.
how
so.
the ship's engines light
without
while
getting
it's
all
still
coffee and
ignited while the booster's
choked
engines are
up.
still firing. Basically, the rocket never stops accelerating, which makes it more efficient than traditional stage separation.
And then after we launch the booster, we also have to catch the booster. And we do that by using the two robotic arms, the same ones that lift Starship onto Super Heavy before we launch. They also catch the booster when it returns. It means we don't have to have any landing legs in the booster. That's a lighter booster. It means we can put more payload, more stuff going to space.
Thousands of criteria must be met before the booster can return and be caught. It requires a healthy systems and manual commanding from the flight director.
And just like on our previous flights, if that command's not sent before the end of the boost back burn, or if those automated health checks running in the background find any unacceptable conditions on the booster or the tower, they'll kick us out, and the booster can default to a landing burn and a soft splashdown out there in the Gulf.
Yeah, we've said it before. We'll say it again because it still holds true today. We accept no compromises when it comes to ensuring the safety of the public and our team. And the booster return will only take place if those thousands of conditions are right. So as the clock continues to tick down to launch, let's say hello to Chris, who's once again posted up in Hawthorne. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, Kate and Dan, and welcome everyone to Hawthorne, California. As you can hear and as you can see, the crowd is gathering. Excitement is really building here for Starship's 8th flight today. And speaking of flight, let's talk about the Raptor engines, which have quite a workout ahead of them today. Now, our Raptor engines are designed and manufactured right here in Hawthorne, and they have certainly accomplished some impressive things already. They've powered Starship in its first few flights around Earth, and they've helped bring 2 Super Heavy boosters back for a catch by the Mechazilla system at the launch site. But here at SpaceX, we're always looking to improve our designs, and we do this by using something that we call the algorithm. Now, for Raptor, the algorithm has helped us question the requirements for the engine, find the parts that we don't need, and then optimize the design for manufacturability and reuse. This allows us to simplify designs and drives us toward that rapid, reliable reuse. And as you can see on your screen here, it is definitely what we have done with the Raptor engine. Look at that beautiful family photo. You can really see how Raptor 3 is an unprecedented step forward in design. It eliminates the parts we don't need. It moves a lot of stuff inside the engine. And one thing that it also allows us to do is to delete the heavy engine heat shields that are used on the current version of Raptor today. And what that means is that when we switch to the Raptor 3 engine later this year, we'll be able to save about a metric ton of mass per engine. And when you multiply that by 39 or more engines, that's a lot of mass. And that mass savings actually helps us increase Starship's efficiency and the amount of payload that we're able to deliver to space and to Mars with Starship. But before we get to Mars, we still have a lot of important and critical development work to do. And it's flight tests like today's that help us do just that. Needless to say, the Raptor teams here in Hawthorne are very excited for today's flight and to see their hard work fly, just like all of our Starship teams are today for Flight 8. So Dan and Kate, back to you for some more info on Flight 8.
Thanks, Chris. You mentioned development. Let's talk about things that we learned from our last Starship mission. In January, Flight 7 of Starship generated lots of important data. That data led us to change some of our pre-flight testing for today's flight. A major find from Flight 7 was the detection of a harmonic response that was much stronger during flight than anything we had seen during testing.
That's right. Rocket engines create incredible amount of noise, vibration that can pass through every component in the rocket itself. Flight 7, we saw those vibrations at a specific frequency. They were also strong in a strong enough amplitude that it was placing a lot of extra stress on some of Starship's propulsion system, and that's what most likely
this is what caused the problems with
leaks that then cascaded into
the
fires,
ship itself in the last
loss
launch.
of contact with the ship.
As part of our investigation, our team took this flight's ship through a 60-second static fire, which was 10 times longer than any previous static fire. The test cycled through throttle levels to recreate different conditions seen within the propulsion system during flight. You can see that on your screen now. We also tested hardware changes on fuel feed lines to Raptor's vacuum engines.
The additional data we got from this test specifically led to some new hardware that's installed in the RVAC fuel feed lines, which are also unique to this upgraded version of ship. Those feed lines look like large straws. They run through the oxygen tank, and those are delivering fuel directly to those vacuum engines. The new hardware was successful in significantly lowering the strength of that harmonic resonance and relieving the extra stress on the prop system. And then just in addition to new hardware, we made a couple of operational tweaks, adjusting things like the temperature of the propellant as it's being fed to the engines, also changing the throttle level that we're setting those engines at on a set.
We also looked at where fires broke out in the attic, which is the unpressurized space between the bottom of the ship's liquid oxygen tank and the engine heat shields. Fires here resulted in loss of ship on flights 2 and 7, so we took steps to make it more resilient to leaks. We added a hefty purge system that uses gaseous nitrogen. Similar to the carbon dioxide system on the booster, it floods the zone with an inert gas to help prevent a fire.
Yeah, we also increased the attic's just natural fire defense. We added some more vent holes that helps to keep that attic pressure close to vacuum. As Starship flies into space, makes it harder for a fire to ever exist. And then on the next generation ship, we're going to do the best thing possible and just start deleting some parts.
Yeah, the best part is no part.
The next generation of ship is going to use Raptor 3 engines, which are going to reduce that attic volume, and they're also going to eliminate most of the joints in the engines themselves that can leak into the space.
In the end, these changes represent the core of our test program. We fly hardware in a real-world environment, learn from the data, make updates, and fly again.
And then today we're going to be attempting to do everything that we didn't get to do on Flight 7. So we're still looking to get our first re-entry with the upgraded ship, while we're going to be really intentionally stressing it again to get data on what the vehicle's boundaries are. So everything we've got ahead of us, as always, starts with liftoff, and that's Super Heavy igniting those 33 Raptor engines, lifting off from the pad here at Starbase for that initial ascent. Those all 33 will burn for the first roughly 2 minutes before we get into hot staging.
For hot staging, the second stage will ignite its engines while still attached to the first stage. That will create that stage separation. The booster will perform a flip maneuver and head on back to the launch site here just behind us. Then we will hopefully see the third ever tower catch by the launch tower.
Meanwhile, ship completes its ascent burn, gets into its suborbital trajectory. We've got some extra things we're going to do in space, like deploy those Starlink simulators. Also going to be relighting one of the Raptor engines, one of the sea-level engines, before we get into re-entry.
Yeah, that re-entry phase will test multiple experiments, including missing heat shield tiles, metallic tiles, and loading the vehicle's flaps. The ship will then perform a flip maneuver and hopefully achieve a soft water landing as we have seen before. We've got some buoy cams stationed out there to give us great daylight views of that splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, it's a lot, but again, we're really focused on finding what are the real world limits of Starship. We're doing it in this very remote area to find those limits before we get ready to return ship to the launch site and eventually catch it. And a lot of the upgrades we made to get to this version of ship are going to enable that.
Yeah, man, that's going to be exciting to see ship catch.
It's going to be wild.
Now, Ship 7 premiered a huge block of upgrades to add more capability to Starship, and we've carried them through to test on Flight 8 today. First, the forward flaps got a redesign. They have shrunk and shifted away from the ship's belly or the heat shield. You can see that on your screen there. This new position will reduce their exposure to heating during re-entry. We've also extended the length of Starship, and we've done this by 2 meters. This additional height gives us about 25% more propellant volume, which will aid in future longer duration missions. We also implemented propulsion upgrades, such as new fuel feed line system for the Raptor vacuum engines, as well as vacuum jacketing of feed lines and an improved propulsion avionics module.
And you've heard us talk, a lot of the experiments we're running today are focused on re-entry. We're intentionally removing a whole bunch of tiles all over Starship itself in this missing tile test. They're removed in critical areas this time, including over those propellant tanks, around some of the flaps, as we're really looking to use this flight to push Starship's capabilities. If we're not resilient to a missing tile and the backup ablative underneath, we need to know that. We also test a couple of different tiles on Starship, some metallic ones, one of which has some active cooling built into it.
Avionics also underwent a complete redesign with 4 upgraded Starlink terminals. You can see the location there popping up on your screen. Those now combine Starlink navigation and radio frequency, as well as communications, into a single unit. And non-structural versions of the ship's catch fittings have been installed to test thermal performance, i.e. do they survive re-entry, along with a smooth and tapered edge on the tile line to address hot spots we covered and saw in Flight 6.
And we've got some radar sensors on the tower catch arms again, as we're just looking at different ways to measure distance between the arms and a vehicle. These ones are actually protected by kind of a modified version of our heat shield tiles. Catching the ship's going to be a little different from catching a booster. One of the key things is it's going to do that flip right before its landing burn that rapidly reorients your antennas, which you're using for navigation. So those extra sensors on the ground side help just add more layers of control as ship and tower talk together for the catch.
And in another first, Starship will deploy 4 Starlink simulators. They are similar in size to our next generation Starlink satellites. Starship will have the ability to deploy our advanced V3 Starlink satellites, which will help further Starlink's impact in the coming years as we work to expand access to high-speed internet all around the world.
Each Starlink V3 launch is planned to add about 60 terabits per second of capacity to the Starlink network. To give you some perspective, that's about 20 times the capacity we're adding right now with every V2 mini launch on a Falcon 9. Those Starlink simulators that we're going to deploy are on the same suborbital trajectory as Starship itself. They're expected to demise upon entry. Starship's trajectory looks super similar to our last couple of flights. Splashdown is targeted for the Indian Ocean. And then on top of all of that, again, we are planning to relight one Raptor engine while in space. That just helps us get data on the in-space burns and show Starship is capable of deorbiting.
Speaking of deorbiting, thanks to Starlink, one of the hallmarks of the Starship missions are the incredible views that we get throughout flight, and especially during reentry, as evidenced by many a phone and desktop background around here. Yeah. Every day, we're working to expand the Starlink network both on Earth and in space. For how this all connects us to the big mission, let's head back to Chris.
Thanks, Kate. Personally, I love all those epic views of the plasma wrapping around Starship during reentry. Can't wait to see that later today. And fans of Starship may know that Starlink enables us to bring you lots of unprecedented views, both from space and here on Earth. Starlink is the world's largest satellite constellation operating in low Earth orbit today to deliver high-speed, low-latency broadband internet and connectivity, specifically for missions like Starship today. And as you can see on your screen, Starlink brings us many other views because of its capabilities. In addition to the dozens of cameras on Starship itself, we have mobile camera kits with Starlink deployed in the Indian Ocean, which is what you're seeing some footage of right now on your screen from a previous mission. You'll notice the Starlink mini dish in the foreground here as Starship lands in the background. Just what an image that captured from an earlier flight. Now, Starlink also connects our aerial and cinematography units on the ground at Starbase, which will help us deliver the incredible drone shots leading up to launch today. And here on your screen, you can actually see us moving the flaps, preparing Starship for flight, making sure all of the aero surfaces that need to move during flight can do so in the way that we need them to. Now, on Starship itself, Starlink will enable Starship today to stream more than 120 megabits per second of real-time, high-definition video and telemetry in every phase of flight, including views like you're seeing right now of those flaps moving. This not only helps provide those views, but it also helps give our engineers an incredible amount of data to help us rapidly and iterate across all parts of the system as we move through our development program. And all of the streaming data today will definitely be put to good use with the more than 30 cameras on the vehicle for flight. But providing epic views is sort of a side quest for Starlink. Its main job is obviously to provide internet access for people around the world, many of whom who have never had connectivity before. Now, today, Starlink serves more than 125 countries, territories, and other markets with over 5 million active customers and counting. And there are just so many inspiring ways that people are using Starlink all around the world and in space. And hopefully today, in a few minutes, everyone will get to see more inspiration about what our future in space looks like. And Dan and Kate, how are we looking for Starship's flight today?
Thanks, Chris. We are looking forward to those views as well. In fact, we're getting ready to launch Starship in just over 8 minutes. Now, as for a couple status updates, working no major issues on the vehicle. Range is emerald green, you could say. Everything looks great in terms of the sea and airspace here in the Gulf of America, as well as in the Indian Ocean. Of course, we want to make sure both areas are clear as the ship will be splashing down in the Indian Ocean while the boosters can be coming back to us at the launch site just a couple miles behind Dan and I. Weather, you could call it a silver lining that we had to delay from Monday because holy moly, visibility is 1,000 times better today and it's going to make for some really great views. Now leading up to today, we did stack the vehicle later last night. Flight controllers reported to their consoles earlier today. The site was cleared and the range team was deployed.
That's right. And a lot of checkouts have happened just throughout the day, aligning our guidance, navigation, control, getting all the tanks ready for prop load, which has about 4 minutes left to go. You can see us almost topping out on ship, getting ready to top out on booster. And then it also includes getting all the ground support systems checked out, ready to go. Chopsticks were demated, did their wiggle test in advance of their upcoming catch opportunity. So as I just said, prop load's ongoing. We've got a little over about 4 minutes left until, or about 4 minutes. What's 7 minus 4? 4 minutes until we get to closeouts on ship and on booster. We did just hear that the range did pull again green. So we're not tracking any issues right now. Bottom line, things are looking great for launch at the top of our window at 5:30 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah, very exciting. Now, once again, we are attempting to catch the booster at the launch tower. If that happens today, it will be the third ever booster catch. This is an aspect that I really enjoy, and it's how the vehicle announces that it is back.
It lets you know.
Oh, yeah. This comes in an audible sonic boom in the area around the return location, which occur when the booster slows down from traveling at supersonic speeds. Similar sonic booms were heard during the return and landing of NASA's space shuttle.
Yes, sonic booms are unique to vehicles returning from space. They're kind of a hallmark of reusable systems like our Falcon 9 rocket and Falcon Heavy. General impact to those in the surrounding area is that brief thunder-like noise. I've been fortunate enough to be here for all of them so far. They definitely let you know the vehicle's coming. Here's a little bit about what it's like to experience it.
That was Flight 6.
And as someone who grew up hearing those sonic booms as the shuttles landed in Florida, and now hearing them for Falcon and Starship as well, they really are something to experience. And when you hear them, you just know it's a spaceship telling everyone that it wants to be reused. Great sounds. So as you can hear, the room is getting excited here in Hawthorne. The crowd eager to see Starship fly, as you can see. And here, now behind me in our flight control room here in Hawthorne, you can see some of our folks on console. They're assisting the flight controllers in Starbase, keeping an eye on all of Starship's various systems, including its avionics and those Raptor engines we talked about a little bit earlier. So Dan and Kate, with 4 minutes, 20 seconds left on the clock, let's hit it back to you at Starbase and hopefully watch Starship lift off today.
Thanks so much, Chris. Now, if you're just joining us, we're now just about 4 minutes until the liftoff of the 8th test flight of Starship. As we reported earlier, range and weather are both very green, super green, if you will, and everything is looking good. Propellant loading continues to happen. We're going to be closing out very soon on both stages of Starship.
Yeah, we're almost fully fueled on our tanks. We're going to see that closeout coming in just about 30 seconds on ship. So that's both the main and the header tanks. And then about 30 seconds later on booster. Once prop load is complete, we got just shy of 1 million pounds of
3.5 minutes left.
Liquid oxygen, liquid methane onto both vehicles. All of our ground systems will do what's called pushbacks. They'll clear all those feed lines. We're not continuously replenishing the propellant on board Starship or Super Heavy. That's why we essentially have several minutes where we can hang out at that T-minus 40 hold point before we start to run into issues with temperatures or just those LOX levels, or that LOX level on the booster is one of the main things that we watch. So we're also going to do a couple of final checkouts. We'll do one final one of the thrust vector control, the TVCs on the booster. We'll see them hopefully do a little bit of a wiggle test. The first one comes at about 1 minute 40 seconds before launch, and then the last one comes right as we pass that T-minus 40 gate. Again, if we need to hold, which we held a couple of times on Monday, we can do so at that T-minus 40 second. We're not currently tracking any issues that would hold us there, but if we do run into that, we can hang out for a couple minutes.
That would be the point in the countdown, as we mentioned on Monday. That T-minus 40-second point is when we can pause to hold for final checkouts or pressurizations if necessary. But once we pass that T-minus 40-second mark, a number of things are going to occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems will come up to flight pressure. The ship goes to internal power, and after that, the quick disconnect or QD arm lockout, that's removed in preparation for retraction shortly after T0. Once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, as we saw on Monday, we had the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to that T-minus 40 second mark and hold there to assess what happened and if we're able to proceed to T0.
And like we said, that we can hang out at T-minus 40 for several minutes before we start running to do some limits, essentially, on our propellant on board. There are a couple of other things, like if we pass the T-minus 10-second point and the water starts to flow in that flame deflector and we scrub, that's automatic scrub for the day. Oh, there's our TVC, our thrust vector control checkout. It's got a little bit of a wiggle there on those inner Raptor engines, those 13 inner ones, which are going to be used for that boost back burn.
Lady Mino, welcome in.
The landing burn. So cool to see those.
Yeah, I love that shot. We don't have that on Falcon, and it's just so cool to see really the business end of the Super Heavy booster.
Ten seconds away from that T-minus 40 hold. We'll see.
This is where they held last time. Do one final
All right,
go,
we are
no
gonna
go
hold
poll.
at T-minus 40. We're watching the temperatures on the ship right now for the ship fuel. Sounds like they're working through that. We might be able to release that hold shortly. All right, sounds like we're going to be able to reset those holds, not tracking any other holds.
There we go.
And clock is rolling.
35 seconds.
And the clock is rolling once again. We're now T-minus 30 seconds till the liftoff of the 8th flight of Starship.
Our flight director, Joe Schleicher, today is go for launch. Let's listen in as he takes us through the final seconds of the count.
There we go. Got a telemetry up on the bottom of the screen.
T-minus 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Water deluge. Look at that. That's just pretty.
We got the
All 33 Raptors fired.
vehicle pitching down range. Booster under pressure nominal.
All right, we're a little over 40 seconds into the flight. We're seeing 33 out of 33 Raptor engines ignited. Boosters pushing us downrange over the Gulf. Next milestone coming up in just under 10 seconds is going to be max Q, that max aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
All right, so we're through max Q. That's the heaviest stresses it's kind of seeing on the way up. Wow, that was pretty incredible.
I'm still recovering. That was amazing. Beautiful views of the vehicle on ascent, pitching downrange away from the launch tower.
Next thing coming up is hot staging. So we're going to look for 6 engines to ignite on ship while we're still attached to the top of the booster. We'll see all but those 3 center engines shut down on booster.
We're hearing the initial call that we are go for booster catch back here at the launch tower.
Nice.
Coming up now on hot staging, the ship's engines will ignite while still attached to the Super Heavy booster, and also while Super Heavy booster will still be under power itself. The clamps holding the two stages together are going to release. Starship second stage engines will
Booster engine
ignite.
cut off. Ship engine startup.
There we go.
Stage separation.
Boost back burn startup.
There we go.
Oop, got two engines that didn't fire, but that's okay.
Raptors ignited. We're doing that boost back burn. Looks like we got 11 of the 13 that we command for that.
They have so many
that's
engines,
gonna
they can
start
adjust
sending
each engine
the
to make
booster
up for
back.
ones that
We are
go
still
out.
go for booster return, even with 2 Raptors out during that boost back. We can do a full duration one.
Roger, chamber pushes nominal.
Looks like we got a ship, 6 engines heading into space, and then we got a booster hopefully on our way back to Starbase. How's everything going in Hawthorne, Chris?
Everything is looking good. The crowd eagerly followed that ascent and now watching the booster coming back. So as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen here, that is ship continuing, and that's a great view of ship continuing on its way to space. They're looking, that's inside the camera, inside the aft skirt, looking at the Raptor vacuum and the sea level engines. The sea level ones there in the center of your screen under our T+ clock. You can see our boost back burn. We're down to 3 engines on the boost back burn. And you can see ship on the right-hand side of that telemetry with 6 engines lit, continuing its ascent to orbit, already over 100 kilometers in altitude. The booster 87 kilometers in altitude and continuing its trek right now back to the landing site and catch site. There's
Boost back shutdown.
and we just heard a good call out for boost back shutdown. The next thing we should see on our screen is the separation of the hot stage from the Super Heavy booster. We jettisoned that because we do not need it for the landing, but on future iterations of the Super Heavy, that hot stage ring will be incorporated into the booster and we will get it back. But for today, you can see it on the right-hand side of your screen there, just separating off of from the right-hand side of the booster. You can also see the booster doing its liquid oxygen dump there, which is exactly what we would expect for it to do as the booster gets itself configured for the landing here. Now, meanwhile, Starship will continue to coast after it reaches orbit for about 40 minutes or so up to an altitude of 214 kilometers, but it's still got a ways to go there, currently accelerating past 7,500 kilometers per hour there in velocity. And just look at those great views of the booster coming back. The Gulf coastline there just looks absolutely gorgeous.
Starship is on a nominal trajectory.
And there we hear nominal trajectories all around. And Dan and Kate, we're at 5 minutes, 15 seconds here into the flight. Everything looking good for the Super Heavy and for Starship today. What's it like there at Starbase as we get ready to catch?
It was incredible, Chris, to be able to see the mock diamonds with my own eyes. That was amazing. We are standing by for return of booster back to the launch tower. We have heard that we are go for the catch of the booster.
Yeah, this coming from one of our long-range tracking cameras, we're able to see the hot stage separate and fly away. So coming up in just about 30 seconds, we're going to look for the landing burn. We're going to command those 13 inner and middle ring engines to turn on. 13 initially.
Look at all that fire just from friction.
Velocity as we're slowing down from supersonic speeds, eventually moding down to only 3 engines for that precision flight into the tower.
Right now, booster using its 4 hypersonic grid fins to help guide itself through this atmospheric entry back for its precision landing at the launch site. Once again, we're going to ignite first the center 13 engines. We should see that coming up here momentarily.
Engines and startup.
All but one. That's okay.
This is going to come down to
Drop down
3
to 3
engines as the booster slows down for its landing. And we just heard the sonic boom. what an incredible sight to see the super heavy booster
There, they got
gliding
it.
down
Booster
into the
burn
chopstick
shutdown.
arms once again.
Make it roll on top of booster.
Stuck the
Man.
landing.
Third time. They're making that look
Wow.
easy.
That will never get old.
Yep, that'll never get old.
All right. We saw 12 out of 13 light for that landing burn. Booster still able to make its way with that final precision burn on the 3 engines in for the tower catch. So Booster caught. Meanwhile, keeping an eye on ship. Still got 6 Raptors burning. Those are going to continue for about another minute until we'll get to the Starship engine cutoff. Really cool view. Again, a million shout outs to all of our avionics team who make these cameras possible for us. That's looking right down inside essentially the skirt area of ship, where you can see a pretty good view of all 6 Raptors, especially those 3 inner ones, one of which we're going to hopefully relight a little bit later.
Uh-oh, that's not
And we
good.
just saw some engines go out. It looks like we are losing attitude control of the ship.
That's not good. And we're losing methane again.
Ship FTS is saved.
And, well, going up and down.
So we're still getting video down from the ship. You can see we've lost several engines and we've lost attitude control of the vehicle.
Come on. I really wanted this one to make it. Again, this is the V2. And they've lost it. Yep. There goes the telemetry. Well, wait a minute.
So we'll continue to stick with it.
Look at that.
For those of you that just recently joined us, we had a successful liftoff of the 8th test flight of Starship, followed by a successful stage separation. We saw the booster, actually, you can see it just behind us here. The booster had a successful catch back at the tower. Unfortunately, it seems as though we lost the attitude control of the ship. We are standing by as we listen in with the teams on the nets to understand what information we're able to provide you. We will provide that as soon
That's
as
why
we
these are test
able.
flights.
But it's pretty incredible to take a moment and see the booster just behind us. Certainly
Yeah.
a different view than last time.
And at this point, we've essentially lost contact with the ship. We're no longer receiving telemetry at this moment. So we were only about 20 seconds away or so from the end of that ship ascent burn. We saw several of the engines start to cut out. Once you lose enough of those center engines, you're going to lose attitude control. And so we did see the ship start to go into a spin. And at this point, we have lost contact with the ship. So we're going to listen in for a little bit. I think it's pretty obvious we're not going to continue the rest of the mission today, but just give us a couple more minutes. We'll bring you more information as it comes in.
And we're probably not going to hear much more from SpaceX. Well, they got the booster catches down, Pat. Bring Felix back in over here.
Off nominal again, and it kind of looks like it was from the engine bay again. First analysis, of course, this can change, but I didn't look good. I saw the engine bay footage where while Chris G was still saying, "Oh, this is epic," I was like, any audio from SpaceX still? They're quiet right now. They're still assessing. Yep, they're still assessing this. This is the same view we're getting, especially our pad cam right there is beautiful with the sun setting, with the booster hanging from the tower. This is surreal stuff. This is something out of this world. If it wasn't something I've already seen, it's unbelievable. But the ship, the dreaded Block 2 ship. There you can see the frost lines. That's an interesting shot as well, because you can see how much fuel is left after it's done its landing burn. There's still a bit of fuel to spare, which is then being vented out so that the ship can, so that the booster can safely be lowered down. But it's not much at all. SpaceX will do this even shorter in the future. I'm pretty sure they're going to.
All right, so coming back with you real quick. So can confirm we did lose contact with the ship. Unfortunately, this happened last time too, so we've got some practice at this now. We've got a lot of measures in place, like debris response areas where we coordinate very closely with air traffic control. We have a lot of measures put before we ever launch a rocket to make sure that we're keeping the public safe. Those worked last time, and they're actively in work right now. So just to recap real quick, everything we saw, we lifted off right at the top of our window, essentially at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Booster was able to get us all the way up into space, made its way back here. It's sitting on the tower right behind us, our third ever catch. Starship ignited all 6 of its Raptor engines. It was just about 20 or 30 seconds away. We'll get exact times from the end of its ascent burn when we started to see some engines go out on ship, eventually lost attitude control, and then lost contact with the ship shortly after. So obviously a lot to go through, a lot to dig through. We're gonna go right at it. The primary reason we do these flight tests is to learn. We have some more to learn about this vehicle, but we're going to be right back here in the not too distant future, and we're going to get a ship to space.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We fly to learn, and we're learning a lot. And as is the case with developmental programs such as the Starship program, progress isn't always linear. So at this point, we're going to close out our webcast for the day. But before we do, we'd like to give a shout out to our viewers, of course, as well as our partners, both here in Cameron County and around the world. Now, once we know more about the mission today, we'll provide you with updates on SpaceX.com as well as at SpaceX on X. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Okay. Like I said, can we get that replay up again with the engine section? That's the most important evidence we have right now. To everybody who's still watching, thank you so much for going through this with us. It's pretty amazing. Flight 8 showed us the second time that I think there's trouble with the engine section. There's something wrong with the Block 2 design that they'll have to. Yeah, that shot exactly, the one where you see the engine bay from the inside. I saw it and I was like, nah, this isn't the clean burn you should see, because normally when a rocket, especially a methane-powered rocket, is in space, you don't see anything when the engines are on. You saw that in the beginning as well. We can do a comparison of that later. But as you can see there, if we can rewind that real quick again, you can see there's a lot of other stuff happening there. There's some small amount of venting going on the center engines. There's the entire engine bay is filled with this glow. There you can see even more action going on when it loses attitude control. That's not just engines shutting off, that's stuff rupturing. And it seems to be connected to the problem they had on Flight 7. it looks similar. So maybe the fixes they had are just not enough. They'll have to keep working on that. Maybe even redesign the entire downcomer situation that they have, the engine manifold, so on and so forth. They've made many changes with the Block 2 design, and when you see this kind of a spin, it's over. That's it. You normally don't recover from this. You can see later on here, if we keep this running for a moment, you can even see tanks rupturing. That's where I was like, all right, this is it. So this is really, really interesting. We're going to spend some time analyzing this to get, see, there you go. So you can see the first spillages there and stuff like that on the side there. This isn't nominal at all. Even though the camera picture came back again one more time. Exactly. This is telling anybody who knows a little bit about rockets that flight is over. That's the thing you're going to hear tomorrow, of course, because of all the political turmoil that's going on. You're going to hear the press scream that Elon Musk's rocket exploded again, but it's part of the deal. That's just how it goes, and they're going to keep testing. The Block 2 seems to have some problems, as we've seen. This is the second time, and it looks like it came from the engine section again. It was later on in the flight, though, which is great, because that means Turks and Caicos are not going to be bombarded by parts flying down. This should be further out on the ocean, and it should be within, excuse me? Hopefully off landing sites. Can we bring one of those on the screen? There you go. Okay. So where is this from? This is a tweet of this is.
See, as you said, I was just looking at
but
Twitter
how close is
too.
this to land? That would be interesting, because this is something that can't go on, and this is where I draw the line as well. If you need to have a corridor, that's something I said from the beginning on about Boca Chica. It has one thing that's great. It's secluded. It's out of everybody's range down there. If you ever visit Starbase, you'll see what I mean. It's pretty remote, which is great for doing prototype work. But as soon as you start launching, Boca Chica has a problem that you have to aim for the space between the Keys and Cuba. And what else is down there? There's a lot of islands in that passage, and you have to aim through that. And if anything happens in the corridor before or above those islands, that's the benefit of the Cape. Once you're off the coast, there's a lot of spots where you can just splash down and nobody's interested. So this is a good example for one of the reasons why Starbase is a great spot for prototype development. But if you have problems with them in the air, that's what happens. So I'm really hoping right now that corridor was kept this time. It was kept last time as well, but a few pieces made it out of that corridor, according to reports at least. I'm hoping that that's not happening again, because that's something that's not really, really good, especially when you live down there. You will confirm that. The booster landings are amazing at this point. They just seem to be working just fine. That's great. Even with engine outs, that's something I called early on as well. 2 engine outs is not really a problem. Center engines out is a different thing, because those can't be substituted, but the booster catch just works. It's amazing. You can see the vapor coming out of the booster there. That's what I meant earlier. They're bleeding off the last bit of fuel to set it down on the pad. That's all nominal. Everything's perfect. By the way, we are missing 95 subscribers to get to 587. If you're in range of your remote or your screen, push the subscribe button. Thank you, guys. Here we have, this is our live recording of our pad camera right there. It's a bit pixelated right now because it's a live recording. It's not what we stored on our hard disk. That's why you see it breaking down a little bit. This should be our other camera, right? This is Lone Pond? Oh, yeah, that's our live feed, right? Yep. So that's the booster still bleeding off that little bit of fuel so that it can be lowered down, and SpaceX is extremely quick. Thank you, guys. You brought us over 587. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching this with us. This is amazing. If you have any insights that I'm not mentioning right now, bring them up as questions. I'll stay up a little bit longer at least, but I don't have much time left because we're right now probably directly jumping into episode production because I want this to get out to everybody out there. Thank you so much for making the subscriber counter raise. This is very much appreciated. Thank you.
There's some of the debris coming in.
See the numbers going up.
As seen from Cape Canaveral.
Putting a smile on the entire team. You can bet about that. Everything else besides the dreaded Block 2 ship looks absolutely nominal. The booster catches almost seem routine at this point, which is completely crazy.
That's way out behind. That's out in the ocean.
Catching a 200-ton rocket that goes down at 8,000 kilometers per hour from the edge of space with a rocket in the dunes of Boca Chica, with a robot in the dunes of Boca Chica. It's just incredible that this is number 3. Imagine this. This is SpaceX demonstrating that this works. It's crazy. But the ship. They have some pretty amazing goals with the ship, and that's probably the reason why we're seeing these tests fail right now. It has to do so many things that have never been done by a rocket upper stage. The booster is fairly similar to a Falcon 9 booster, even though you would probably right now be like, what? But it actually is. I mean, it uses different engines and different fuel, but it's grid fin technology, and the way it returns back to the launch site, even though it doesn't have any legs, is pretty... Oh, look at this beautiful recording. Yep. This is Jonathan from the team tracking the rocket. He hasn't looked at it yet, so he's hoping that the tracking worked. Beautiful. He's downplaying it right now like crazy. He's working with a poor connection to the camera to be able to track it, and he's like right now in the back. You should hear him say that, "Oh, this is all bad." No, this is really good, Jonathan. Thank you for tracking the rocket like this. And it's also It's also a camera that is not built for tracking. It's a PTZ camera. Normally, you track a rocket with a fluid head or with a telescope mount or something like this. So seeing him keeping it in frame like this is pretty amazing. I'm very much looking forward to the actual recording. That's going to be even more crisp. I've done this before. It's insanely hard with that camera, and he keeps it in frame. So thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, as you can see, during the launch, everything looks fine. It almost looks routine at this point that they're launching the largest rocket ever built every 1.5 months out of Boca Chica, but the ship is a different story. Especially with Block 2, because the Block 1 actually worked more reliable. That, of course, doesn't mean they can go back to Block 1, because Block 1 was a step towards
Holy
them
shit, it's
achieving
coming
their end goal,
right
and Block 2
at
is the
us!
next step. But they'll have to refine it, and that might mean...
Holy shit,
I don't
dude!
want to jinx it, but it might mean...
I don't
that
know
we
if this
are
is
a
from...
bit further away from
It's saying like
It's coming
15 minutes ago.
Go back to the drawing board and look at the engine section and implement more than just a nitrogen purge system and and different fuel lines and vacuum jackets on. So they did a lot of stuff actually compared to the last flight, but it wasn't enough yet, as it seems. It might not have fixed the problem, and that's what they're going to go back to. We're obviously not going to see a ship catch on Flight 9.
Not sure if that was from
reliably catch land.
the last blow up or from this one. It says 8 minutes ago.
Landings after we've seen this. You want to be very, very safe with this kind of stuff. If you aim something that is 120 tons dry mass with a heat shield at a land mass, you need to be extremely careful. So I would expect SpaceX to maybe even do 2 launches until they attempt a catch again, but you never know. But this shows us that Block 2. Jonathan,
Okay, yeah, okay, that was
Block 2 right now?
that one or this one.
I mean...
This guy was out in a boat using
I'm
Starlink.
live, but yeah, sorry, I thought I was muted. So the Block 2 started right, it flew 2 times, and it basically had a very similar failing pattern 2 times. So it, of course, was probably different, we don't know too much yet. But it looked very similar.
Yeah, I think it was a very similar problem to what they had before.
So,
What's your verdict?
yeah, we'll see.
Hey, Rain, welcome in.
I'm very sure we're not going to see any ship crash on the next flight then. Like, that's for sure. Yeah. I mean, what I came here for is that recording of our landing view of the booster coming in. It's also a live recording, so there's going to be some compression in there, as it's not the actual recording on the SD card.
Yeah, let's just take a look at that.
And
Different
SpaceX
angle.
has ended their stream.
It's nice. You can't get enough angles for this kind of stuff. I'm so looking forward to seeing the first one live. Like I said, I've seen plenty of Falcon 9 boosters return to the Cape, but I've never seen a super heavy booster return, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Like...
Yeah, but we are hopefully going to go to Starbase soon, you and I, right? Right.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's coming for a visit from Germany, for a second visit actually, and we are hoping that we're going to go to Starbase together in the next few weeks. I would love to, even if there's no ship. To anybody who hasn't been out there yet, shout out to the lucky. There goes the chopsticks. And there comes the
There it
booster.
comes.
It's amazing to see those narrow in on the booster and just grab it out of mid-air. This is so surreal. See, the engines work almost before they shut off. There's this wild gimbaling to get the last little bit of momentum out. It's just...
Oh, and they're also moving it to the side right away.
Right away.
Right? Yeah, very interesting. If you go back a few
Maybe
seconds.
that is... Was that there during the last catch? I don't think so.
I
Maybe-
don't think I've seen this before, so that might be very, very new. Which is cool, of course.
Might be a preparation to catch a ship. Could
Yeah,
be a
maybe.
confirmation for a ship catch on the same tower. That's, of course, everybody. When we're brainstorming here, this isn't official information from SpaceX. This is educated guesses from some people who analyze this for a living, but it's not SpaceX. So this is us guessing. Don't quote us on this, but it might be a preparation for a ship catch on the same tower. Let's see if that.
Or it could be they're just moving it out of the way so it doesn't blow up
They're
the
actually going to set down the booster and then catch
the
ship.
launch pad in case something blows up.
Yeah, that's SpaceX. That's the dog. Jim, give me just a second. I'm going to let him free from the studio. 1 second.
Do that. In the meantime, here's a radar view. That should be the booster landing as well. Let me just crop it to somewhere.
Well, folks, that's going to be about it. I guess they're not going to tell us anything tonight.
And you can beautifully see the chopstick move in position.
If I see anything pop up on X or something like that, I'll post it in Discord.
Very interesting. They added some radar sensors, some additional
Like I said,
radar sensors.
I'm not feeling very well at all, so I'm
It's
going
getting
to jump
better
off
and
of
better,
here.
And it almost looks like routine. It's a 200 ton.
Whoops. Go ahead and let it play, but I'll mute it. Yeah, I'm not feeling very good, so I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here. Was glad to finally catch a launch. It's been a friggin' week. I think we're about maybe 3 weeks away from the next launch. We'll see. Maybe longer. They might have to do some more changes to the ship now. But they were coming along on the next ship and booster. I'd like to see them reuse a booster. Now that they have three boosters that they've recovered, I'd like to see them reuse one of them. They'll have to figure out why they had some engine issues. It's just really hard to restart one of those rockets, especially as it's dropping as fast as it is. But anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out, and we will see y'all next time.